trying to make the noise make sense. I came down feeling foolish for even checking, but the walking kept happening. Sometimes directly above our bedroom, sometimes over the hallway, once over the kids' rooms. That night, I lay awake for a long time staring at the ceiling. I started doing little things. I put a thin strip of painter's tape across the attic hatch seam, just a tell. If it opened, the tape would tear. The tape never tore, which should have made me feel better. Weeks later, I was folding laundry in the hallway and looked up at the hatch. It looked normal, but there was a faint gray smudge on the ceiling near the frame, like someone had brushed it with a sleeve. I pulled the ladder down again. This time, the insulation wasn't pristine. There were compressed paths, not scattered dents like an animal darting around. A route, a repeated line pressed down across the joists like someone had walked the same way enough times to flatten it. I moved the flashlight slowly, following the indentation. It led toward the side yard vent. Behind a ridge of insulation, tucked almost carefully, was a rolled sleeping bag. I didn't touch it at first. I just stared at it, waiting for my brain to turn it into something else. Old contractor debris, insulation wrap, anything but what it looked like. It was a sleeping bag. Near it were cigarette butts, and they looked recent. We don't smoke. No one we know had any reason to be up there. I climbed down, shut the hatch, and told my wife. I watched her face go from confused to tight and guarded. We got the kids out of the house and called the police. 2 officers came. They went up with flashlights while I stood in the hallway listening to their boots move above us, and that sound did something to me. The house didn't feel like ours anymore. It felt shared. They came down with the sleeping bag in an evidence bag and the cigarette butts collected in a glove. They asked practical questions. How long have you heard noises? Any contractors recently? Exterior cameras? Any access points? I showed them the attic vent. One officer shined his light up and pointed out that the screen was loose at one corner, like someone knew how to remove it without making it obvious. They didn't find anyone. The officer said something careful about how whoever it was might have moved on once they realized we'd noticed. After that, I did everything you're supposed to do. Reinforced the vent with hardware cloth and screws, installed cameras covering every angle of the yard, added motion lights, put locks on the attic hatch. I even hired a contractor to walk the exterior and point out potential vulnerabilities. He talked about soffits and roof lines like it was a standard improvement project. It all sounded normal, but the quiet never came back the same way. Because now when the house goes still at night, I don't just hear silence, I hear possibility. I catch myself noticing the same things I used to enjoy. The TV off, the dishwasher done, the kids asleep. And instead of feeling peaceful, I feel aware. The attic still exists above us. It's sealed, secured, reinforced. But I know now that there's a part of the house I don't live in. A layer above my daily life where someone once walked, paced, waited. I used to think I knew my home completely. Turns out I only knew the parts I occupied. I've always been the lock guy, not paranoid, just disciplined. I've spent 20 years on construction sites watching what happens when people get comfortable. My wife used to tease me that if I ever forgot my lunch, it'd be because I was double-checking a deadbolt. In 2019, we were living in Fresno, a 3-bedroom house on a quiet street, with dogs barking at mail trucks and sprinklers clicking on before sunrise. The bathroom window was small, high up, and frosted. You'd need a step stool to reach it. Most people would say no one's getting in through that. That's exactly why I paid attention to it. Bathrooms are routines, half-awake moments. I didn't like the idea of a window up there that wasn't locked tight. The first time I found it unlocked, I blamed myself. It was late. I'd showered, brushed my teeth, and was doing that end-of-day mirror stare when I noticed the latch sitting up. I remember thinking, you missed it. I pushed it down, felt it click, and went to bed. A couple nights later, it was up again. This time I was sure I'd locked it. I asked my wife, "Did you open the bathroom window?" No. The kids, they can't even reach it. I still didn't panic. People forget things. Latches slip. I told myself it was cheap hardware. But then it started happening more consistently. I began checking it as part of my nightly routine. Doors, garage, side gate, and bathroom window. For about a week, nothing happened. Then, one morning, I walked in and it was unlocked again. The problem wasn't just that it was open. It was that I knew I'd locked it. I remember the feel of the latch under my thumb, that small resistance before it seated. Now it was up. My wife started getting irritated, not because she didn't believe me, but because I kept circling back to it. Did you maybe bump it? No. Are you sure? Yes. Are you? I could hear myself and I didn't like it. I'm not the jump to conclusions type. I don't get rattled easily. I see real emergencies at work. A window latch shouldn't shake me. So I decided to remove doubt entirely. I bought a secondary lock. Solid metal, with long screws. The kind I'd install on a rental I didn't want anyone messing with. I measured carefully, pre-drilled, drove the screws deep into the frame. When I was done, I tugged on the window hard. It didn't move. I remember feeling a quiet satisfaction. Problem solved. That night I checked it again before bed, locked and secure. In the morning, the air in the bathroom felt different, a little colder. The window was open about 4 inches, and the secondary lock was gone. It wasn't broken, it was gone. For a few seconds I thought I was looking at it wrong. Then I saw the empty screw holes. The screws were sitting on the counter, all 4 of them, lined up. They hadn't ripped the lock off. They'd unscrewed it. Whoever removed it had the right tool and enough time to do it carefully. I called my wife in. She looked at the window, then at the screws, and her face changed. "That's not okay," she said quietly. The kids were at school. The house felt hollow. I called the non-emergency line because I didn't even know what else to do. How do you report someone politely removing a lock? The officer who showed up was calm. He examined the window, the frame, and the screws. "Any disputes?" he asked. "No." "Any recent contractors?" "No." He walked the yard, looked up at the window from outside. It wasn't impossible to reach. A crate, a ladder, even a trash can would do it. Back inside, he tapped the empty screw holes. "This wasn't forced," he said. "Whoever did this didn't want to break anything." I asked the question I didn't want to ask. "Why not break it?" He gave a small shrug. "Sometimes they just want you to know they can." That hit harder than I expected. After he left, I went into full project mode. Motion lights, cameras, extra locks. I reinforced everything that could be reinforced. I replaced the lock, added another lower down, installed a camera facing the side yard, another by the gate. On paper, we were safer than ever. But something had changed. The house used to feel quiet at night. Now it felt observant. Every small sound made me calculate. Was that wind, a branch, a footstep? I found myself walking through the house in the dark, checking corners, checking shadows that had never bothered me before. I kept replaying the detail that bothered me most. The screws, they weren't tossed on the floor, they weren't scattered, they were placed neatly on the counter. That wasn't panic, that wasn't rushed, that was someone taking their time inside my boundary. We lasted a couple more months. I told people we were moving for a better commute, better schools, closer to work. That's what made sense to outsiders. The truth was simpler. It wasn't the unlocked window that changed things. It was someone removing a lock I trusted, putting the screws down like a calling card, and proving they could come and go without breaking a single thing. And once someone shows you that your house is accessible, it stops feeling